I thought building a small private road on my own land would be the quietest decision of my life, but the moment the HOA slid a smug $300 bill under my door and claimed they now controlled access to it, I realized this wasn't just a fight over gravel and permits. It was a test of who really owned what, and by the time it was over the HOA would lose power, neighbors would panic, lawyers would scramble, and one arrogant board would learn a lesson so brutal it's still whispered about today. So if you love slow-burning justice, shocking twists, and real-life stories where entitlement finally meets its match, subscribe now and stay with me, because what started as a simple road ended with an entire HOA begging for access they could never legally reclaim, and it all began when I bought 5 uneven acres just outside a pristine suburban development called Maple Crest, a place known for identical fences, identical lawns, and an HOA that believed rules were more important than people. And the reason I bought the land was simple: freedom, no dues, no letters about grass height, no strangers telling me how to live. But what the realtor failed to emphasize was that my land bordered the HOA on 2 sides and touched the county road only through a narrow strip of dirt that turned into a muddy nightmare every time it rained, forcing my family to park far away and walk in boots. So after one especially miserable winter I hired a licensed contractor, pulled county permits, paid for surveys, drainage, compaction tests, and built a clean, legal gravel road entirely within my property lines, a modest but solid access road that solved my problem and didn't touch a single inch of HOA land. And for a brief moment life was perfect, until a man named Dennis, the HOA treasurer with a voice like he was always reading rules out loud in his head, knocked on my door and handed me a printed notice stating I owed the HOA $300 for road usage and infrastructure impact. And when I laughed, thinking it was a joke, he didn't laugh back, instead calmly explaining that since my road connected near the HOA entrance, they considered it a shared access improvement, and that was when I knew I was dealing with people who relied on confidence instead of facts. So I politely declined, explaining I wasn't part of their HOA and my road was private, but the smile he gave me then wasn't friendly, it was satisfied, like someone who thought resistance was temporary. And 2 days later I received another letter adding late fees, another threatening fines, and another warning of restricted access enforcement, which made no sense because they didn't own my land. But instead of arguing emotionally I started pulling documents, county plats, zoning maps, easement records, and buried inside decades-old filings I found something powerful: a recorded, exclusive access easement granted to my parcel long before Maple Crest existed, meaning I had a guaranteed right of access independent of the HOA and, more importantly, they had zero authority over any road I built on my land. And when my attorney confirmed it, he said something that stuck with me: "They're not confused, they're gambling that you don't know this." So I sent a calm certified letter declining all fees, attaching copies of permits and surveys, and informing them any attempt to interfere would be treated as trespass. And that letter set off a chain reaction nobody expected, because the HOA responded by escalating instead of backing down, posting a cheap plastic sign overnight that read, "HOA controlled roadway," sending notices to residents claiming they were now maintaining my road. And then one morning I woke up to find orange cones and a flimsy barricade partially blocking my driveway, as if intimidation could rewrite land records. So I called the sheriff, who documented everything, removed the obstruction, and quietly suggested I keep records because these situations tend to get messy. And messy was an understatement, because within days HOA residents started using my road as a shortcut, encouraged by the board. And when I confronted one driver who shrugged and said, "HOA says it's public now," I realized the board was deliberately creating usage to claim control later. So I installed a steel gate fully inside my property line, posted clear private road signage, installed cameras, and sent one final notice stating unauthorized use was prohibited, and that single action detonated the neighborhood, because suddenly residents who had enjoyed the shortcut were forced back into traffic, tempers flared, meetings turned ugly, and the board blamed me for hurting community flow, painting me as selfish, until one resident asked a question that cracked the whole story open: "Why are we charging someone for a road we don't own?" And from there the lies unraveled fast, because during the legal discovery my attorney uncovered emails where board members admitted they knew the road was private but believed if they asserted authority early, I'd pay and set a precedent. And when their lawyer saw those emails his confidence vanished, because now it wasn't about $300, it was about bad faith, misrepresentation, and potential damages. And while the lawsuit moved forward something unexpected happened. The county announced emergency response rerouting due to construction, and suddenly my road became the fastest access point for fire and medical services to reach half of Maple Crest, and the HOA that had tried to bully me was now trapped, because they desperately needed access they couldn't legally demand. And that's when Dennis returned, no clipboard, no smile, offering to resolve things amicably, waive fees, and restore neighborly relations, but leverage changes everything, and my response was simple. Access would be granted only through a formal agreement acknowledging my ownership, revoking all claims, reimbursing my legal costs, recording a permanent restriction preventing future HOA control attempts, and limiting use strictly to emergency vehicles, not residents, not shortcuts, and when the board hesitated, emergency planners didn't, pressuring them to sign, residents demanded answers, resignations followed, and eventually the agreement was signed in full. The HOA publicly retracted their claims, paid my costs, and lost not just control of access but the illusion of authority they'd relied on for years, because once homeowners saw the board lose so decisively, they began questioning every fine and rule, attendance at meetings doubled, transparency became mandatory, and Maple Crest was never the same again. While my family drove peacefully down the road I built, a simple strip of gravel that became a boundary line between ownership and entitlement, and when people ask if it was worth the stress, I tell them this wasn't about a road at all, it was about knowing your rights, standing your ground, and understanding that sometimes the most powerful thing you can build on your land isn't infrastructure, it's precedent.